we are, Kunetta, an awesome simple lamp kit. Alright, let's jump in and pull out the pieces. We've got the main laser cut block of pieces there. We've got a little electrical candle, little votive candle. Takes little watch batteries that you can find in most drugstores, etc. Flipping it over, we've got all of the panels that'll go on your lamp taped in to the back. Just need to peel off this little piece of tape right here. Like this. Yeah. So these are 6 paper panels. They're actually plasticized paper, vellum, with a little extra paper glued on the back to give them a little bit of rigidity. We've got 6 of these. Put those aside and we'll put them on later. This is the laser cut block that makes up most of the actual parts of the lamp. Little instruction pamphlet we'll set aside for the moment. On the back of this you can see there's a little hook that's been taped there. Don't lose that, that's useful for later. Just peel this off and there it is, fairly straightforward. I'll show you how to stick that in when the time comes. Set that aside for now. And here are the real parts of your lamp. There's a piece of tape holding everything together. Comes off fairly easily. You don't want to try to push the parts out because you stand a good chance of snapping them. But if you grab the tape here, you can peel it off. Do that real quick. And pop out the pieces. And toss that bead away. Okay, so what do we have here? These are the ribs that make up the real structure of the lamp. There are 8 of these, even though you're only going to use 6. It gives you an opportunity to break a few. The bottom has these little holes. The top does not. The holes indicate the bottom. We'll go over that later. Here's the bottom plate to the lamp. Check. This is not important. This is the top plate to the lamp. This is the smaller piece. And then we have these 2 little bits over here that you can see say test on them. These are simply for you to become familiar with how tight the joints are. Squeeze them together, see how you wiggle things to make them fit, pull them apart, etc. When you're done, toss them. Alright. So those are all the wooden components. Here is a simple set of instructions. Simple set of instructions because it's a simple lamp. We'll start with number 1. And first, stick the candle in the bottom plate. Bottom plate, candle. This should slide in easily. It's going to be a little bit tight, and you don't need to push it all the way, the candle all the way into the bottom plate. Just seat it in nicely, and you'll see it probably has a 1/4 inch or so sticking out the bottom. That's a good thing. You want to do this first because it makes the bottom plate a little more rigid. Step 2. Adding the first 3 ribs. So I'm gonna grab 3 of these, and we want to put 3 of these ribs on the base plate before we try to put the top plate on, because having the 3 ribs in position there will make it easier to seat the top plate. So this is just sort of a game of balancing pressing firmly with not pressing too hard. Generally these ribs are going to be fairly sturdy, but if you break one, this will probably be the point where you do it. It's when you're trying to feel out how much you can wiggle the ribs, how it helps seat them in there without going too far. That's why you've got 2 extra. Alright, so once you get the first 3 roughly in place, they don't have to be completely pressed in. In order to get them really seated, you can see what I'm doing here. Put your fingers on either side of a rib and press it down against the table. That way you're holding firmly on the base plate and you're not really putting pressure on anything that's likely to snap. Alright, so we've got those 3 in place. Step 3. Now we're going to stick the top plate on. Like I said, it gets a little easier now that we've got these 3 ribs in place to hold it there. And it's just sort of a matter of juggling the ribs around, making sure you've got them in the right places, but on the way, so on and so forth. And again, these can be just sort of loosely put in place, and then really seat them a little more tightly by holding on to either side of the top plate, on either side of the rib, and pressing it down against the table. Yeah. Thusly. Alright, and step 4. Dramatic music. In which we put the remaining 3 ribs on. So here we go. Again, remember the ribs have a top and a bottom, and the little hole at the base indicates the bottom. Wiggle this in place. Get that approximately in place. Set it on the table and seat it like this. Now we need to repeat that a number of times. Ta-da! Alright. Thank God for fast forward. That took me about 3 minutes. So, here we are. There's the rib, and next is step number 5, in which we actually start putting the panels on and making it look more like a lantern. So before we put the panels on, there is one thing we should do. These ribs look like they went on right, but if we hold a straight edge up, we can see that the one on the right is at a bit of an angle. When that's the case, it makes it more difficult to put the panels on, because it means that in this case, to the right of that rib, the space will be a little smaller, and to the left of that rib, the space will be a little larger. And that means that the panel doesn't sit in there evenly in those 2 spaces. If you can see, I just wiggled it gently into place, just sort of pressed and aligned it. I'm flipping it around, looking for other ribs that are also misaligned, and there really weren't any. So, grab some glue. Pretty much any glue works. Don't use super glue, because it just gets immediately absorbed straight into the wood and disappears. Other than that, anything's fair game. Elmer's glue is great. Wood glue, great. Whatever this glue is, it's really great. Although it's getting kind of empty. So, just a little bead of glue on the bottom plate and on the top plate. Like that. Set it aside. Now we grab the panel and set the top on the top plate, fold it down to the bottom plate. It'll just sort of fall into place. The only important thing here really is that you don't pull it too tight and you don't leave it too loose. So you're looking for something where the panel still has a little bit of give. You can see that slight dark area down at the bottom. That means you've got good contact between the glue and the panel. Same at the top. It really doesn't show when the lamp's finished, don't worry about that. And then just rinse and repeat. Glue on the bottom, glue on the top, glue on the top, glue on the bottom, add a panel, etc. You can see as I go through here, just kind of tapping the panels into place, kind of feeling them out. Again, we want them sitting on there lightly. We don't want it so loose that you can see through the sides, but we don't want it so tight that as it becomes more or less humid or things change, that the panel is likely to warp because it's being pulled down too tight. So anyway, just looking for some gentle alignment like that. And that's our sixth panel. Ta-da! Looking pretty good. Yep, looks a lot like number 6. Check, 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 check. Well, you know, it's A-okay. Great. So don't forget your little wire clip here. It's made so that one end pops into this little hole like this. Might have to wiggle it a little. Might have to wiggle it a little more. Maybe try rotating the... Yeah, this actually took me a few minutes, so we'll just fast forward through this 15 seconds of struggling there. Unusually tight. Anyway, it went in nicely, but we discovered that one of these panels was not fitting quite right. You can see a little gap in the panel there. So that's easily fixed because the glue is still not completely dry. Just kind of pulling and rubbing the panel down towards the bottom. You know, don't need to do anything drastic. Looks like that did it. Check the other panels, make sure they're all good, no gaps. Yeah. There you go. There's a lantern. Check. Now, you may also have some pieces for a lantern stand. If it is before 2016, these probably won't be in a package. Haven't quite figured out how to pack them in with lantern yet. But they're a really nice addition, and the lanterns look really good hanging from them. Simple assembly. There's one notch. Just line it up, pressure fit it in. Do be a little careful with this one that you go in straight. You don't want to wiggle it up and down because it is possible to snap the top of that joint. Doesn't happen often, it's just possible. Pull out the little wire clip and just hang it off the lantern here. A little tricky to do with one hand maybe, but doable. Yeah, and that is the whole story. Let's turn on. We've got down here on the bottom. Just flick on the little light. And there you go. One Kunetta lantern. Enjoy.